We're next going to hear from the president of BritBox and the ex-executive vice president of franchise and digital enterprises at BBC Worldwide. So now, please welcome our next speaker, Soumya Sriraman.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to try and do this the old-fashioned way. No slides. I'm just going to talk at you for a few minutes, and then hopefully we'll have time at the end for some questions. So, and bear with me. I'm going to intersperse with entertainment speak. There's going to be some industry speak, and some numbers smattered in there. And let's just see how it goes. Thank you. So I'm here to talk about a topic that's become part of our everyday lives, SVOD and OTT. Over the top, I think, is the sexiest term in entertainment right now, not the least of which is because it sits right at the center of the inevitable and unstoppable merger between the worlds of television and digital video. Okay, I guess I'm too short. We learned another thing. And SVOD, and you all know this, SVOD is the growing force for OTT, something that traditional TV networks shied away from for a very long time because they didn't have the DNA in D2C marketing. And then Netflix happened, and happened very fast. I'm sure most of you in this room remember when Netflix all they talked about was the long tail. And they talked about how their long tail is where their consumption was happening. And we know how Ted Sarandos now talks about their originals, what most of us would call the Hollywood short tail. I'm not suggesting that these scions of the digital media world were dealing in what is fashionably known as alternative truth. No. The truth is their revised positions reflect an industry that's changing at breakneck speed, and the ability, indeed, the necessity, to adapt and iterate constantly. Hands up if any of you had business plans that you were working on 3 years ago? No? Okay, I was. 2 years? 6 months? You know, the point is, I do think that in our business, agility is key. And in this digital space of media, we're all on a roller coaster ride. But if we try too hard to hold on, we will miss the most important thing around us, which is the view. Never in the history of pay media has a service been adopted as quickly as SVOD, and with that comes the opportunity and the need to learn, adapt, and iterate. You will hear me use this word a lot, iterate, because I think that is so key in our business today. I think where digital and media have converged, iteration's what's key. But in the midst of the changing market conditions and revised business plans, some constants hold true. For me, throughout my career in film and television distribution, I've had two guiding principles, two things I am very passionate about. Some of you may remember Jeff Bezos of Amazon fame. He had his 4 C's of success: customer centricity, continuous optimization, culture of innovation, and corporate agility. But for me, there's just 2 C's. In our business, it's content and consumers. And the power of both has never been felt more than right now. And today I want to talk about how those 2 things are shaping our experiences and offering exciting new business opportunities. Last year, the number of original scripted shows in the US increased for an 8th consecutive year. But for the first time, that increase was driven entirely by digital services. Traditional TV cut back, but digital more than made up the slack, doubling its output to, I think there were 93 original shows that the digital services commissioned in 2016. Of course, this was fueled by the big 3. So where does that leave us if we are not Netflix, Amazon, or Hulu? Have the 900-pound gorillas sucked all the air out of the room? Or is it a case of go small, so go home? I believe quite the reverse. You remember the phrase, you are what you eat? Well, in this day and age, you are what you consume. How you consume it, and then you share it with 1 million, well, maybe a few tens in my case, of your closest Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, you name it. And then, if that isn't a crowded enough arena, we have Facebook Live now, which then means that I could be in my home in New York and my family could be filming an event in Bombay. We're all streaming it together. My husband, the animator, is doing something with it, and then voila, it's up on Facebook, and we're resharing it again. That's the power of niche media. With social media bringing like-minded people together, audiences are defining themselves across the borders of communities and even countries, forming online tribes, and they seek services that are dedicated to their favorite content, from anime and soaps to documentaries, horror shows, and beyond. Added to that, the consolidation of these online tribes around particular passions leads people to identify even more strongly with their communities of interest, driving engagement. Passion breeds passion. Gone are the days when companies cooked up brands in conference room, and this is something I'm very passionate about. I think that no longer are we telling people what brands are, it's what they're telling each other. And when it comes to content, increasingly sophisticated consumers decide what they want and when they want and how they seek it out. Just look at the success of Crunchyroll, which surpassed 1 million subscribers in the US just, I think it's been a couple months now, which is amazing when you think about the power of niche Japanese anime in that space. And I think it's giving consumers what they wanted. Another example is in Mexico, Netflix had 70% of the SVOD market, and then Televisa's Blim came in, and voila, they had about 17% share in just 9 months. Again, this was Blim giving their audience telenovelas, and it's just what they wanted to see. These new offerings are working because the audience has evolved to a point where they're seeking services dedicated to their favorites. Few numbers now. I think you will all agree, as little as 3 years ago, OTT was somewhat of a mystery to people. Today, it's a big part of most of our lives. And research shows that by 2021, there will be 383 million SVOD subscriptions around the world, up from 163 million in 2015. I mean, that's more than doubling it in a very, very short time. In a couple other stats that to me are very encouraging. In 2016, 27% of US households were spending more than $15 a month in add-on services. And that's increased quite a bit, because in 2014, that was just 20%. This is a recent stat from CES. And of course, the thing that I like the most is that the research is showing that by 2020, about more than 20%, I want to say the number was 22% of households, will have at least 3+ add-on subscriptions, i.e. the power of niche OTT is here to stay. It's this climate of growth and audience super segmentation and engagement that led us to launch BritBox just 2 weeks ago. BritBox is a new ad-free SVOD service, and with 2 British content powerhouses behind us, BBC, which is the commercial BBC Worldwide, which is the commercial arm of Britain's major public service broadcaster, BBC, and ITV, who's Britain's biggest commercial broadcaster. We're bringing the US the most comprehensive SVOD collection in the market today. And research is in our favor. Again, you guys might have seen some of these numbers. 70% of the SVOD subscribers are doing so for more TV. You've all seen it. I think Netflix and Amazon will tell you that 70% of their consumption is happening with television media, not with film, but with television. And what's fascinating is only a subset of that 70%, 15%, are subscribing to these services for exclusive content. This is a project that's been in the BBC pipeline for a while, and there have been many twists and turns along the way as our plans were tweaked and honed. Last year, when we were close to launch, ITV came on board with their own library of fantastic shows, and AMC Networks, already a partner on BBC America, took a financial stake in our business. These were exciting developments because they allowed us to take BritBox from good to great. There's so much more value for the audience when they can binge on Prime Suspect and Poirot, alongside Lindley and Joan Hickson's Marple. Assuming you guys know some of these shows? No? Okay. These are British shows that I'm very passionate about. So I love the fact that we can bring a lot of these shows all in one platform. Now, I know what you're thinking. Not a day goes by when we don't read about another new service that's launching in the US. So how many services can one person actually subscribe to? How many minutes are there in a day before they continue to run out of binging minutes? And what does one have to do in these days, this time, to be successful? Churn management will become key. Again, another stat, 40% of Netflix subscribers have churned in and out of the service on a very fast basis. So what does this mean for all of us? I think it comes back again to my two basic principles, which is content and the consumer. First, the content. BritBox is the most comprehensive SVOD collection of British shows in the market, and that means that we have thousands of hours of programming in multiple genres. And it's this diversity of high-quality content that allows us to tap into my second C, which is our consumer. And so who are these superfans that we think will come to our service? This is not a narrow band of expats who are obsessed with deerstalker hats or Hyacinth Bouquet or the Queen. Far from that. I think these are people that we know aspire to a different psychographic. These are people that, from news junkies that are looking for in-depth documentaries, or soap fans looking for their daily fix, from comedy fanatics who are in love with quirky British humor, to quality drama connoisseurs. This is the part that I think is exciting, that there is a growing legion of global citizens that are looking across borders for information, inspiration, and entertainment, even as politics in the US and parts of Europe might make us think otherwise. These people cross traditional demographics, and they share a psychographic with each other. An example of this came up when I was talking to a colleague recently. She told me that when BBC America launched, and even as recently as 5 years ago, they just wouldn't have any subtitled programming on their service. And this is, back then, and I would say even now, this is a bit much for American viewers. But Narcos and Americans on FX are a reality. Of course, BBC4 had it right many years ago when they spawned the Nordic noir wave, and then that started the rush of those formats in the US. I think it's indicative of a slow but significant change in American sensibilities. It's serving these outward subscribers that's our passion at BritBox. And we like to say we have a streaming service like no other, and it's true. It's not just because of our exclusive content, but because of how we curate it. We're not trying to take anyone to the BBC or the ITV in London. We're guiding them on their own journey where we can help them explore their passions and interests. I can go on and on about the shows, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm instead going to say we're going to carefully curate our extensive libraries, and doing that, we can super serve our fans of a particular type of programming, and then we can also cross-pollinate them from one band of fans to another. The history enthusiast who comes in for our collection of wartime documentaries may well be interested in our based-on-reality wartime drama, and the mystery fanatic may be willing to give true crime a try. So it's very early days for BritBox, and we have a lot to learn. There's a long road ahead, and like all the best digital services, we will be listening, learning, and iterating along the way. In the meantime, I'd like to leave you with one more thought. It's been said that 2016 was the year when OTT became the gateway to broadcast future, the flexion point when SVOD reshaped how TV is consumed in the market. If that's true, the impact and opportunities right now are enormous. In 2017, let's walk through that gateway, to use a cliche. Let's be bold and brave. Let's learn and iterate. But above all, let's put content and consumers at the heart of everything we do. Thank you. I'm going to show you a reel for BritBox, and then I'll open it up to the room for questions, if there's any. Thank you. Oh, it worked.
Is it true?
Oh, yes.
Don't you dare tell anyone.
Fancy it?
on, sir. What's the message? I'm on tenterhooks. Do tell.
I definitely know about that.
Oh, spiffy. Absolutely spiffy.
The lights are on, but everyone's gone out.
Do I sound like a Chinese takeaway?
How long before you kill someone?
My gut tells me I've missed a murder.
There. Thank you.
Okay, will you be happy to take a question?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so raise your hand if you have a question right now. Can I quickly start with one?
Of
You
course.
mentioned that there's a limit to how many hours of subscription video on demand anyone can watch, but many of us already have maybe a Netflix subscription and an Amazon Prime subscription and possibly something else as well. Where is that limit in the US market that you're entering, do you think? Are people going to be willing to have multiple subscriptions to multiple platforms, or is there some future in which all of this stuff has to come together in one basket?
So we think right now, I think people are going to seek out additional add-on services, and we think the limit is somewhere between 3 and 6. We're seeing that that's where it's going to end up. Do I think that in the not too long future, we're going to see an aggregation, a digital re-aggregation, so to speak? Yes, I think so.
Thanks for that.
I think that's going to happen.
Okay, if we have no more questions, raise your hand if we do. Can I ask you please to thank Soumya? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.